Discover the chilling tale of betrayal and revenge where every trust is a gamble and every love a deception. I had a gorgeous wife, a successful business, and a perfect life. However, everything changed in an instant. I discovered the concealed messages and witnessed the secret gatherings. She was cheating on my best friend. Then I discovered their astonishing plot to betray me for money. Betrayal. Cut deep, but my determination is even deeper. This is the story about how I turned the tables. Never put your trust in anyone. Expect the unexpected. Never underestimate a man who has lost everything. Why do terrible individuals, such as liars and cheaters, often succeed in the world? I believe it is because the majority of us are decent and honest individuals. We normally attempt to be honest and kind to one another. We are confident that others will do the same. However, assuming that most people are honest makes us ideal targets for those who lie and cheat without remorse. They can fool us for a long time, even indefinitely, without our knowledge. Because we are honest, we may not notice when others are lying to us. Isabella Giannopoulos showed me the ugly truth. After her marriage, she went as Isabella Giannopoulos Macmillan. My name is Zachary Macmillan, and I was previously married to her. One morning, my Lexus began producing weird noises. I took it to Marshall Motors, where Liam, who had been repairing my vehicles for 10 years, worked. He called me after lunch and asked me to come over right away, rather than giving me an update on the automobile. When I arrived, he led me to a private office. Zachary, the engine is fine, just a slack belt. But there is another concern. He stated that his expression was grave. Someone messed with the brake line. We only had enough hydraulic fluid left to make regular pauses. However, if we had to descend a steep hill or stop, we could have had a car accident. I was shocked. I stared at him, my mouth hanging open. Isabella and I relocated to a new modern home in the upscale suburb 6 months ago. The house was gorgeous, with high ceilings and lots of windows, and it was surrounded by calm woodlands. However, it was located at the end of a dead-end street off a major road that sloped steeply down a hill. If I had driven home that night, I would most likely have been killed in an accident. After a short while, I was able to assemble my thoughts. Liam, could you please do me a favor? Do not tell anyone about this right now. Have you fixed it yet? No, there was a crime here, or at least they tried. I need to contact the cops. All right. I considered for a moment. How about this? Take pictures of the brake line and fill up a report like you would for the police. But let's not call them right now. Simply park your car in the rear of your lot and I will hire one of your old vehicles for a few days. Do you have any cameras in the lot? Yeah, Liam replied, unsure. Here is the deal. When they find I'm still alive, the perpetrator will most likely try to conceal their actions. I bet they will try to steal that car from the lot in the coming evenings. I'll wait to call the cops till it's finished. We can hand over the camera footage at that time. After 45 minutes, I parked my blue Corolla in the driveway. I left work early to figure out what was going on. Most likely, the attack on me was motivated by financial gain. I used to head Apex, a large software firm in Silicon Valley. And I thought that someone was trying to harm me in order to damage the company. On Karma Leader's day off, our cook and housekeeper, Isabella, was most likely shopping or playing tennis, so the house was quiet. I roamed around aimlessly, wondering who might be responsible for what was going on. I called Tyler, an old buddy who runs the security firm Apex employs. I told him I suspected there might be an issue, like something involving money or a future attack. We decided to have his financial team extensively examine our systems and money records. I provided Jeff a temporary password for my workplace computer, so his crew could access what they wanted. I asked him to keep it quiet. We decided to let everyone know that it was just a usual check. After that, I called Chloe, my longtime secretary. I requested her to input the temporary password on my computer and informed her that Jeff's crew would be visiting later that day. Once that was taken care of, I wandered around aimlessly. I went down at the family computer and started clicking around. Although I didn't expect to find anything major simply for fun, I wanted to check through Isabella's files, including her email. However, they all had passwords, which was unexpected. I wondered what Isabella might be hiding on our computer. Perhaps she is arranging a surprise party, but that appeared improbable. I chose to ask her later, around 4:30 in the afternoon. Isabella entered the kitchen as I was drinking tea. She appeared stunned by my arrival, turning pale and nearly slumping against the doorframe. "Hello, Zachary. What are you doing here?" I chuckled quietly. "Well, sweetheart, this is my actual house, do you remember?" she asked. She recovered her calm and sat at the table in front of me. She smiled and said, "Yes, dear, I remember, but you rarely come home so early. And I did not see your automobile outside." And then it happened unexpectedly. I was going to describe the problem with the brake line, but I decided to keep things simple. I told her I had an engine trouble and would have to leave my car at Lyons for a bit. He gave me a single car that is parked in the driveway. Why hadn't I just told her the truth? I didn't tell my wife the truth back then because I didn't want her to be scared. Who would want to inform their spouse that someone was attempting to hurt them? However, thinking back, I see there could have been another reason for my quiet. She seemed astonished to see me in the kitchen. Her reply perplexed me when I thought about it later. I couldn't shake my bewilderment. "Wow, you came back early," she remarked, attempting to collect herself. "It's good to see you home. What shall we do for dinner?" "Let's go outside. Ava isn't working tonight," she suggested. "That sounds wonderful. I'll take a brief shower and then we'll go to Andante." She quickly exited the room. In short time, I could hear the shower running. I put my teacup in the sink and went to the bedroom to tidy up before leaving. As I approached the closed bedroom door, I overheard Isabella speaking quietly on the phone, seeming urgent. I thought it unusual that she had switched on the shower before making the call. I didn't hear the phone ring, so she must have called Jeff. She didn't speak much, just something like, "No doubt." I have no idea. "No, absolutely not." "Yes, we will have to." "Okay, baby. Bye." Even though I just got snatches, they were enough to startle me. She was conversing with my friend Tyler, who works in security. I've been jokingly calling him Dowdell since we were in middle school. Isabella received the moniker from me, so I recognized her on the phone. After she had concluded the call, she went to the restroom. I waited a bit before going to my bedroom to change. I used the guest bathroom to wash my face, so I didn't disrupt Isabella's shower. I was concerned and wondered what was going on. I was curious if Isabella or my friend Jeff had anything to do with what happened to my automobile. Even when everything were dubious, it was difficult to believe. Isabella and I had been married for 8 years. I was 46, and she was 37. I married and divorced while I was in my 20s. I have 2 great children, but I only get to see them during the summer or on brief visits, because their mother relocated far away with them after the divorce. I first met Isabella when she arrived to our office. She was a sales representative for a company that offered computer support services, which we used. I wanted to learn more about her, so I scheduled a lunch with a friend from her workplace who could introduce us. It was worthwhile. Isabella is stunningly lovely. Even if she only woke up when she had time to dress and apply makeup, she looks lovely. She stands almost 5 feet 10 inches tall with long black hair and dark eyes. She has prominent cheekbones, a vivacious mouth, and a fit physique. Her confident demeanor and mannerisms indicate that she is aware of her attractiveness and is aware that others do as well. When I first liked her, I knew others did too. It was fantastic when we started dating, even better when things got serious. After a year, we decided to marry. I'm not especially attractive, but that's okay. Isabella is 9 years younger than me. I accepted that my riches and accomplishments were likely the reason she found me attractive, and I was fine with that. After all, what's the purpose of achieving well if you can't meet attractive women? We had a solid prenuptial agreement that guaranteed she would only earn roughly $1 million if we broke up before 20 years. So I trusted her. My feelings were real, not motivated solely by money. We got along well, and as long as Isabella was content with us being prosperous together, I was fine with that. As long as she makes me happy. Isabella brought so much joy into my life. She spent lavishly, but I could afford it, so it didn't concern me. She was energetic, outgoing, and always up for a good time. She had numerous friends and took me to a lot of events. She enjoyed talking to a lot of guys, but she always returned home with me at the end of the night. Isabella was proficient and enthusiastic, just as she was when participating in adventurous sports such as hang gliding or rock climbing. She drained me, but it made me very happy. The latest events appeared to have reversed the situation. I had to do some serious thinking, especially because Dowdell was somehow involved. Normally, I'd reach out to him first. I had already contacted him, and he had started checking into Apex's financials. I made a mistake in telling him I was skeptical. I was careful not to inform him about the car being tampered with. Isabella and I proceeded to Andante for supper that night, when we tested my acting abilities with a bottle of Chianti. I was quite busy, but I made an attempt not to appear hostile or distant. That's how our night went. We hugged for a long, exchanged vows and I love yous, and then fell asleep. A typical evening with dinner, followed by a good time in bed with my wife. It all felt natural, but I had no idea I had a skill for mentally solving difficulties while spending time with my wife. Whether we're eating or getting intimate. The next morning, I awoke with a plan to investigate the mystery of the attempt on my life and its possible relation to my wife. I hurriedly prepared for a brief vacation to Los Angeles by packing an overnight bag. I requested my company's travel agency to book my normal 3-day round-trip airfare and a room at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, my go-to location in Los Angeles. I reserved a nice car to drive us to the airport, ate a quick breakfast, and went to wake Isabella up in her bedroom. "Hey, sorry for waking you." I grinned at her. I was pleased to see her lovely face as she slowly awoke and smiled at me. "Good morning, Zachary," she whispered and gave me a lengthy kiss, and then another. She felt so good. I wanted to get back into bed with her, but I decided not to. I told her I needed to go to Los Angeles. This morning, I received some emails about a meeting we've been preparing, which is coming up soon. I'll need to be there for a few days. Even though it was not real, it sounded plausible. I used to travel frequently, often for work with little notice. I will wait for you. Will you return on Friday? Isabella asked. Yes, that is the idea, just a promise. It's just you and our bed. All right, Isabella? She giggled and embraced me hard. Don't worry, honey, it's just me in here. I can't wait until Friday. She murmured into my ear as we rode in the limo. I couldn't help but question my wife's dishonesty. Was I mistaken? And she had nothing to do with the assault on me. Was she a skilled liar, maybe a heartless villain? I was scared, but I wasn't sure if my fears were justified. While flying from San Jose to Los Angeles, I reflected on my plan. The most critical aspect was to keep everything a secret, especially since Tyler may be involved. I needed to be careful not to do anything that would alert him to my suspicions as the Bay Area's senior security officer. He needed to hire someone who wasn't local. I grabbed a taxi from the airport and paid cash for a disposable cell phone at an electronics store. When I arrived at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, I called Jordan and scheduled a lunch appointment near his downtown office. Dan was my closest buddy when I founded Apex, and we made a lot of money when it was successful. He later went to Los Angeles. With his family, he started working at a financial services firm that was prospering because of his intelligence. Dan and I met several times a year, so it was not unusual for me to pay him a visit. We had lunch on the balcony, eating sandwiches and sipping beer. We discussed the past, shared anecdotes from recent events, and caught up on our lives. He inquired about Isabella while I learned about his wife MIA and how their children were doing. After we finished eating, I leaned in and spoke with Dan in a serious tone. I'd like to ask you a favor, Dan. Dan seemed interested, so I continued. I believe there may be a problem at Apex. Do you know of a reputable security company? Definitely, Dan responded. Alan Newman, the boss at Vertex Securities, is quite competent. Do you still have Tyler? Yes. However, I would prefer to have someone new for this position. Could you do me a favor? Simply phone Newman and say a friend wants to speak with him for advice. But don't reveal who it is. Dan agreed, and immediately called Newman to schedule a phone call for later that day on behalf of an unknown buddy. Thank you for your help, Dan. Please forget that this ever happened. Now I'd want to ask you another question. When you were with Isabella, did you ever notice her acting strangely or in a way that made you doubt her actions? Dan appeared astonished, turning red before looking down. After a little period, he returned my gaze, slightly ashamed. Zachary, it's difficult to admit, but I have a rather uncomfortable anecdote to share with you. I hope you don't get furious with me. Around 4 years ago, I left the company where we worked together and relocated here. Isabella flirted with me several times. It wasn't the typical innocent flirtation that some people engage in, particularly attractive women. Several times, she came close to asking me out. Dan lifted his hands defensively as if he expected me to punch him, so I must have appeared astonished. It was not direct, Zachary. She never asked if you wanted to sleep with me or anything like that. She hinted at it, but never said it directly. The chance was there for me to seize, but I opted to act as if I didn't have it to avoid embarrassment. That's why I remained quiet. I felt uncomfortable about it, believe me. But I didn't want to enrage you or her when the situation was so ambiguous. I was concerned you would think I made it up. He frowned for a moment. I got it, Dan. And I'm not angry at you. You missed the hint she was dropping and she finally gave up. That's correct. It persisted for several weeks. Then everything came to an abrupt halt. Isabella returned to her usual cheerful demeanor, albeit a little flirty. It felt odd. She seemed to be testing me in some way. Have you noticed any other unusual occurrences? He nodded. His countenance remained worried. It is even worse, Zachary. When we first moved here, Emma discussed having a goodbye lunch with Natalie. Who is Ethan? His wife. Barbara was really sad when she told Emma that Ethan was probably cheating on Isabella. Ethan has worked for Apex for 7 years and was our chief financial officer. I wondered how Barbara found out. Emma replied that she was not certain. She discovered that Ethan had lied to her about his whereabouts several times and shown other symptoms that led her to believe he was cheating. The situation with Isabella was unknown. He may have returned home smelling like her perfume. I don't recall all of the facts, but Emma and I debated whether or not to inform you. I believe that if my partner cheated on me, my friends should inform me. However, the proof was not powerful enough. I hope I didn't make the wrong decision. But I didn't want to cause problems in your relationship over something that may not be true. Following our talk, we bid our goodbyes. I wasn't furious with Dan because it was clear he tried to do what he thought was right at the time. His claims led me to assume that my wife was participating in a plan against me and my firm. When I called Alan Newman, I quickly explained that I needed a great security firm to help me with a confidential matter. Dan thinks highly of you, but I'd rather find someone unrelated to me or my friends. I require a knowledgeable professional in this field for a severe and confidential situation involving finances and technology. Who do you believe is suitable for this position? After some thought, Newman suggested that I contact Barry as a preliminary step in my migration to San Diego. His company and mine work together on several projects. He is extremely intelligent, employs talented individuals, and treats them decently. I have always found him trustworthy. At my advice, Newman interrupted our talk. I contacted Asset Move, and they planned a meeting for me the next morning at 10 a.m. without disclosing my identity. While returning to the hotel, I called Jordan once again. I told him to rent a car from Hertz using his credit card. I asked him to arrange for his friend Elliot to pick up the automobile from the airport the next day. This allowed me to have a car without it being related to me. Later, I grabbed a quick dinner at the Beverly Wilshire. I returned to my room, had my regular nightly chat with Isabella, and went to sleep. The next morning, I ate breakfast in my room and then dressed in comfortable clothes and a baseball cap before exiting the hotel via a side door. I grabbed a taxi to the Hertz office at LAX and arrived in San Diego around 9:45. I parked close to Asimov's office and met Barry Asimov, a pudgy man in his 50s. He had unkempt hair and wore a tight brown suit that didn't suit him. At first sight, he appeared unremarkable. However, after talking with him for 10 minutes, I learned that he was actually incredibly intelligent. I realized I had to rely on someone, so I chose Asimov. I got straight to the point. Mr. Asimov, I need a security company to execute a large work for me. This project is outside of this region and will require a significant amount of specialized computer work. It's highly secret. I will pay you well for your effort and cover all expenditures for your team. It may take a few weeks to complete, and I wouldn't be surprised if the amount exceeds 7 figures. He looked at me closely for a moment. Why did you decide to come to us? And why do you believe we can perform the job? I was referred to Alan Newman, who spoke highly of your team. Why not stick to Newman? He is skilled. I need to be cautious and discreet. Once we begin, you'll see why I'm being cautious. Newman contacted me, but he didn't know my name, making it difficult to connect with you. It's difficult, but not impossible. Following some preliminary conversations, Asimov suggested, tell us the entire tale. If it's something we can handle, count us in. I revealed all the data, including my name, Apex's activities, and worth. And the recent threat on my life. I informed him that Isabella and Denham might be together and explained why. I also shared Jordan's comments on Isabella and her potential relationship with Ethan Daniels. Without mentioning Cameron's name, Asimov addressed me insightful questions, demonstrating his expertise in his field. After that, he relaxed in his chair. I'd heard of Jeff Denham before. He claimed to be well known for his intelligence. Many Silicon Valley corporations place their trust in his work. If he is up to something questionable, we must approach the matter with caution. After additional discussion, Asimov said, here's what I think we should do. You require two primary responsibilities. One individual will go over your company's records and written communications extensively. Another person will investigate Denham, your wife, and Apex's other major figures. James, my top computer expert, will perform the initial assignment. He has a staff of financial professionals who can look into the material they discover. I'll ask Grace to form a team to oversee the second phase of the strategy. We sat in a meeting room for 30 minutes, eating sandwiches and talking about my move. Did not say much. Allow Carlos and Anderson to ask questions. He occasionally offered his opinions, and I always liked his wit. I felt safe and well cared for. In the afternoon, I returned to Los Angeles by automobile. I was delighted he requested for a move and understood why I couldn't pay him a large sum of money up advance. He agreed to trust me on the basis of a commitment signed by the notary in his office. Carlos was going to search for information in Apex on my computer, which was linked to other crucial computers in the corporation. He demonstrated an easy way to do it. I needed to memorize the URL of an Asimov's company website. Whenever I had free time in my office, I would visit that website and download applications for my computer. Carlos and his staff could use the software to exchange and duplicate files from my PC and other connected devices before leaving the office. I made certain to disengage, log out of the website, uninstall the software, and erase the browsing history to hide my actions. It wasn't impossible to figure out, but only someone who was very proficient in computer searches would notice what was going on. Carlos believed that after searching the network for roughly 20 hours, he would uncover and store all of the information he needed to determine whether something was amiss at Apex. Anderson was in charge of keeping an eye on Isabella and other senior Apex employees. We decided, as usual, not to keep a close eye on Denham because he was skilled at spotting security measures. Instead, we carefully checked his phone and credit card details to avoid him finding out. I made sure they knew Denham was incredibly intelligent. It would be a mistake to follow him or listen in on his phone at home or at work. I believe he would figure it out quite quickly. Vera agreed. I want to add sound and sights to your home while also placing a listening device in Isabella's luggage and tapping into her phone. We agreed that I would notify them once the house was vacated, and she promised me that her staff could do the operation in 3 hours or less. Their first move was to investigate the house for any covert surveillance equipment Denham may have installed. I informed them that Isabella had left her handbag and phone at her tennis club. Vera claimed she could easily unlock her locker, inspect for bugs, and put them inside. I just had to behave normally, go about my everyday routine, and be cautious when moving. Believe that the person who intended to hurt me would wait before trying again. They'll probably try to damage your Lexus to cover their tracks. We'll gather additional information in a few days. Take care, Zachary. Avoid dangerous activities such as trekking or visiting new regions. Try to avoid driving alone. Ask Isabella for a ride to work, to remain safe. Do not worry just yet. Barry reassured me with a small smile. I smirked back, slightly suspicious. Sure. Barry, it's easy for you to say, but I'll absolutely be cautious. Before I said farewell, we talked about how we would stay in touch. It was decided that contact would only come from my asking, move. When I was able to contact him, I would call him on disposable phones and ask for Larry. The receptionist would be ordered to correct my mistake and connect me with Barry. We determined that I'd try to call every other day. Later, when I returned to the Beverly, Wilshire, I ate dinner and informed Isabella that I would be returning home a day sooner. When we spoke on the phone, she seemed upbeat, joking about feeling cold and alone in our spacious bed. She asked me to warm her up Thursday night. After hanging up, I couldn't believe my wife was trying to harm me when everything was fine. I thought I knew Isabella well. She was attractive and energetic with a fearless personality. However, she can be distant and self-centered. She wasn't the type of person who went out of her way to help stray animals. Her major emphasis was on herself, particularly Isabella, and you could tell quite soon. Still, I believe Mom cared for me in her own unique way. She was not a very affectionate wife, and I was not particularly demonstrative either. Except for our Caribbean trips, we didn't spend much time cozying up by the fireplace, or going for leisurely walks on beaches. Our days were usually spent making love, going to dinner, and attending the casino in the evenings. We were determined and focused folks. Isabella kept herself occupied after she stopped working by playing tennis, going shopping, spending time with friends, and being intimate with me. I believe Isabella cared for me in her own unique way. Based on who she is, I had the impression that she cared for me just as much as she could for anyone else. I was content with our humble life and delighted with the way things were. However, things took an unexpected turn recently. I couldn't help but suspect that she was plotting something against me. The signs seemed to point towards that probability. The reasoning behind it was evident. Money matters. According to Jordan, she may have known two of my buddies, Apex's Ethan Daniels and my guy Tyler. If Dan is correct, she could be a truly horrible person. Cruel, merciless, and evil. She could have been involved with other people, including Daniels, Jordan, and Dem. This led me to believe she was the one driving things. As I traveled back to San Jose, I considered what might happen next. I felt confident that I could fool Isabella for the time being if she was lying. I wanted to see if I could do the same. If my suspicions were wrong, I would gladly accept her affection once more. However, if she was actually responsible for the attack on me, I had already planned how it would end. And a part of me was excited about it. Meeting Isabella again on Thursday night was fantastic in a number of ways. The sex was incredible. When we get back together after being apart, either love or want takes over. Isabella had prepared Chinese food for us because she knew it was my favorite. However, she shocked me by wearing a short robe with nothing underneath, prompting me to offer we spend time together in the bedroom before eating. We played hard, then showered together before eating dinner downstairs. Another reason I enjoyed Thursday was that it was a normal day. I kept a tight eye on Isabella for any symptoms of shame or fear, but I saw nothing unusual. She acted like her typical self, recounting anecdotes about defeating Sharon Combs and finding the perfect shoes in the wrong hue. I didn't think she knew about my concerns. On Friday, I arrived at the office. Tyler had already called to say he was coming over, which did not surprise me. He most likely wanted to discuss the audit I requested. However, I was assured that he would inquire about my request to ensure that I was not suspicious of his intentions. Jeff welcomed me with a smile, shook my hand and remarked, "Hey, how is Los Angeles?" I couldn't help but worry if Isabella told Jeff about my unexpected journey, but I did not want to worry him by questioning him. Furthermore, he could have already found out from Chloe if he had phoned the office. "Hello, Dowdell," I replied with a smile. In return, my journey to Los Angeles was okay. Jordan offered a prospective work opportunity, but I'm not sure how it will pan out. It was nice to catch up with him, though. "Are you here to present the results of your investigation?" He sat down in the chair opposite my desk. Yeah, that was fairly ordinary. They identified several small errors in the records, nothing significant. I informed Pogrobin downstairs about them, but there was nothing suspicious going on. There will be no skimming money, adding new names to the payroll, or any other signs of outside interference. "Why did you ask me to audit, Zachary?" Denham inquired casually. Denham tried to sound casual as he asked the question. Fortunately, I had anticipated this and had an answer prepared. I believed it was unimportant, but Bert Williamson from 2K2 phoned me on Monday. I said that one of his top executives was in a meeting in New York when he overheard someone indicate that a software company in Silicon Valley was under threat. The specifics were unclear, but it involved fraudulent companies obtaining funds. He initially felt it was unbelievable, but since he hadn't examined the accounts in a while, he decided to look into it deeper. Apologize for making you go through this, but it is important to know the truth. He grinned at me, and I could see him starting to feel better. Don't worry, that's why you have us on standby. After our brief talk, I went to Carlos' website, downloaded the program, and authorized his team to begin reviewing Apex's money and messages. I wanted to give them plenty of time, so I asked Chloe to order lunch for me. I said I'd eat at my desk today. Chloe also delivered the San Jose Mercury News, which I hadn't had time to read earlier. While I ate, I noticed a piece on the Metro page that piqued my interest. It was about a fire at an auto body company that damaged 12 vehicles. I attentively read the account of a fire at Marshall Motors. The fire occurred in the back parking lot. The cops were still attempting to determine how it began. The fire destroyed 12 cars and caused damage to 6 or 8 more. I was not surprised when my Lexus was stolen and set on fire. I had a feeling something like this would occur. I called Liam, taking care to say nothing inappropriate. As we thought, Dowdell may have bugged my office. Hello, Liam. Have you read the Mercury News? Is everyone okay? Yes, Zachary. Thank you. It was late last night, and no one was present. But if you're wondering about your Lexus, I'm sorry to tell that it's entirely damaged. Do not worry, Liam. That is what insurance is for. Can I come by after work today? He asked. We agreed that he would wait for me until 6 p.m., and then we stopped the call. I wasn't sure if the security cameras at Marshall Motors had captured anything unusual. But I planned to have a Simov's team check the film to make sure. Fortunately, Liam had filed a report and taken images of the brake line issue. The individual who set fire to my car was skilled. Liam gave me a tour of the area after the police and fire investigators had left. They suspect something shady, he informed me, but don't think they can prove it. It appears that the old Ford vehicle next to your Lexus caught fire due to a gasoline leak and a spark. The explosion caused neighboring cars to catch fire, he explained, gesturing at the damage. We were outside, out of danger, so I whispered to him. Do they have video from yesterday night? Yep, from 2 cameras. The cops have them now. I thought you might be interested in checking them out, so I have a copy for you. Dom claimed they were in my office, in the drawer with the coffee filters. Thank you. Can I ask Dom for one more favor? A large one. I requested that Liam submit the surveillance footage. His first report on the car and images were delivered to Barry Asimov's office via FedEx on Monday. I told him the address and had him repeat it to ensure he remembered. I left my old car with Liam and planned on taking cabs for a bit. I decided to pick up items at random from various locations without caring about whether they were dangerous. I called Larry as I approached the nearest cab booth. As a further step, I soon communicated with Barry. There was nothing really intriguing going on at the time. Carlos removed several items from my computer, but he still required additional time to finish downloading. I intend to go to the office on the weekend to help. Grace's crew searched my home for listening equipment. They didn't find any and then added their own. They figured out Isabella's computer password and copied her files but hadn't gone through them yet. They intend to search Isabella's purse the next time she goes to play tennis. I notified him about the fire at Marshall Motors and told him he'd acquire the tapes and report back in a few days. We decided I'd follow up early the next week. The days that followed were so commonplace that it felt odd. Isabella and I spent an ordinary weekend together on Saturday. We woke late, spent the morning together, and Isabella cooked bacon and eggs for brunch. She enjoyed making breakfast the best, so we typically went out to dinner or had Ava cook for us. We fooled around at the table, feeding each other and joking. In the afternoon, we visited our club. I went golfing with my normal group while Isabella spent time with her pals by the pool. It was also a way for me to ensure that she had not added anything hazardous to the dish. Isabella donned a provocative bikini and drew everyone's attention with her amazing physique at the club. She appreciated the additional attention. After supper on the terrace with our friends Sam and Ashley, we returned home and made love. The following day, we went our own way. I told Isabella that I had stuff to accomplish at the office, something that happened frequently. I asked for a ride from her and she went to play tennis at the club. I called Barry from a temporary phone to alert him. and he promised me that Vera would smuggle her colleague into the locker room while Isabella was on the court. Next, I went online, installed the application, and let Carlos perform his magic. This provided me the opportunity to reflect, particularly on why I wasn't more furious. So it felt as if my wife and best friend were plotting something horrible against me. It appeared Isabella was cheating on me with Ethan Daniels and possibly others. But instead of becoming enraged, I considered two options. I wasn't entirely certain about things yet. They also argue that retribution works best when it is meticulously planned and executed. I was curious, so I conducted an online search. I discovered that the phrase comes from a man named Pierre Ambrose. Francois showed her the missing de l'Aquilo from the 18th century. Surprisingly, I was able to keep my wrath and sense of betrayal in a small corner of my mind. I didn't intend to exact revenge on Isabella or Dowdall, nor did I waste time feeling sorry for them. I wanted to remain calm until I had strong evidence in my hands. Isabella arrived to get me at 5:30 after she had finished playing tennis, swimming, and showering. We grabbed Indian food and had a relaxing meal at home. We didn't feel like being intimate, so we watched some recorded episodes of The Sopranos before bed. It was a regular weekend for us. Nothing special happened on Monday. I pretended to be occupied in my office, assisting James with his downloads and setting up the program. On Tuesday afternoon, I contacted Barry from a corner table at a downtown bar, and he had wonderful news. He informed me that my automobile had been purposefully set on fire as we anticipated. The perpetrators were skilled individuals clothed in black and disguising their faces with ski masks, making it impossible to determine their identities. They drilled a small hole in the Ford's gas tank and pumped more gasoline into your Lexus. After igniting a match, they immediately fled the site. What happened to Dominique's photographs and documents? Do you think that will lead the police to believe someone tried to harm you? Yes, it might lead people to believe that. However, they require more evidence to relate it to Denim or your wife. After some thought, I answered, "All right. Thank you for telling me. What more did they figure out?" David has completed scanning your computer and his team believes they have discovered something significant. It will take some time to establish, but it appears that someone took money for almost 8 months, beginning just over a year ago. They used a fictitious firm to do it. Perhaps around $2 million was taken, nothing more than that. Afterward, the bogus company was covertly closed down. David believes he can discover the source in your workplace if he gets more time. Do you believe we can get our money back? It's difficult to say, but probably not. The best bet is to determine who took it, report them to the police, and seek for their return. If the individual who took it spent the money, it's probably gone for good. I was not pleased to hear this, but losing $2 million would not bankrupt me or the company. It was more about the idea, which bothered me. In the larger scheme of things, losing the money was far less serious than being killed. Has anyone heard anything about Isabella? Did several friends examine her PC and discover the bugs? Zachary asked. He coughed before responding. It does not seem good, Zachary. I will not lie to you. It appears that she was romantically involved with 2 of Apex's 3 guys. You mentioned Ethan Daniels and Andrew. She also called Denim from her phone on Sunday, implying they were together. Wow! I exclaimed. I wasn't surprised, but it hurt to know my suspicions were correct. Barry advised me to wait a few more days till everything was done. Several teams are keeping a watch on Isabella's phone. The bug in her handbag and the bugs in my home. They're also investigating her phone and credit card information. She had 2 cards in her old name and the bills went to a post office box. Did you know about it? No way, I replied, still astonished. Zachary, I know this is extremely difficult. Can you hold on a little longer and be calm while we finish this? I will do my best. Barry, I understand I have to. Do you think they'll try to catch me again? After a period of stillness, he responded. They could, but they will exercise caution. Because the news regarding your car is recent. They will be cautious not to attract attention. If you are cautious and avoid dangerous areas, you should have no problems. Do you want me to assign some people to guard you? No, that could draw Denham's guys. I will manage everything on my own. I'll call you Thursday. Sorry, Zachary, he said with a gentle tone. Yes, me too. I answered and then hung up. Wednesday seemed like the worst day ever. My marriage was dissolving and a longtime friend had been with my wife. I had a sensation someone was trying to hurt me, perhaps both of them. I couldn't do anything about it yet, and I didn't have somebody to confide in. I went around the office, pretending to be working and talking to Chloe, while planning my retribution. The plan would be based on what Barry and his colleagues learned. But I had already decided what I wanted to do. My wrath grew and I felt misled and outraged. I was eagerly expecting what would happen next. I waited until late Thursday afternoon to phone Asimov, giving his staff more time to prepare. At 4 p.m., I headed to my normal barber shop. Instead of going back to work, I walked to a local diner, sat at a table in the back, and ordered a coffee. That is when I called Barry. We talked over the phone for about an hour. I asked numerous questions. I made sure I understood what he was saying and discussed other options with him. After we finished, he wished me luck and said goodbye. I had everything I needed, and now it was my chance to take control. That night, as with the previous few nights, I pretended to have won an Academy Award at home, exhibiting Isabella the same love and desire as before. I won't say I'm a greater liar or actor than her, but I believe I was equally good. Ava cooked us roast chicken for dinner, and we watched a movie on TV before going to bed together. I realized this could be the final time I was intimate with Isabella, or even touched her. But I didn't feel compelled to make it a memorable occasion. Now that I understood who she really was, I felt a strange mix of physical desire and disdain for her, making it difficult to get excited, at least at first. However, Isabella's gorgeous look and competent style quickly overcame my negative feelings, and we resumed our customary intense and passionate actions. We said evening and fell asleep. My marriage ended in a commotion. It was noisy. I left the house early on Friday to avoid Isabella. I stopped for a quick breakfast on the way to work in her BMW convertible. I hoped the automobile was safe to drive, because I wanted to get to work without any problems. She would be very upset if she discovered her automobile had gone lost, but that would be the least of her concerns for the day. Chloe arrived at 9 a.m., and I directed her to my office. I met her and handed her a list that I had prepared. I need to change my plans for today. I asked her, "Can you help me set this up?" Her eyes widened as she looked over my list. She appeared astonished as she glanced at me, waiting for an answer. I remained silent, and she merely nodded and agreed to handle it. I smiled at her before she exited the room. I had a relatively free morning, save for a 10 o'clock meeting with Nancy Leggett. Nancy was a prominent member of the public relations firm Leggett Hine, which had been working with Apex for around 6 years. We'd developed a good bond over time. Nancy, who was about my age, presented a professional and charming demeanor. She was both smart and witty, someone I could picture myself dating if I hadn't already married Isabella. We talked in my office for about an hour, keeping our voices quiet and the radio volume turned up to avoid being overheard. They could only hear Beethoven's music and Strauss's waltzes. Chloe brought me a sandwich and a soda, as I requested, and I ate them at my desk while reading the newspaper. The exciting part was scheduled to begin this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Chloe called to let me know that Tyler wanted to meet immediately. I smiled and replied, "Please let him know that I am currently unavailable." Chloe. "He can arrive at 4. As I had requested, I wondered if Denham had bugged my office. If he had, blaring music for an hour during my appointment with Nancy Leggett would have raised his suspicions. Perhaps he tapped into Chloe's phone or office and overheard her planning today's activities, per my desire. In either case, I could see he was upset, which made me happy. Please wait. Things will become even more tough. When I went into the conference room a few minutes before 1 o'clock, I noticed that everything had been set up just as I had requested. The enormous table in the room was empty, save for a company laptop at one end, which was open and switched on near the back of the room. There was a video camera mounted on a stand, and one of our team members was present to film. "Hello," I greeted. "Are you Arthur?" He grinned. "I'm pleased to have been recognized." "Yes." "Hello, Mr. Macmillan. My name is Arthur Gentner. Everything is fine to begin." Do you want me to stay and manage it, or would you like me to demonstrate how it works? Just show me, Arthur. I wanted the camera to record all of my meetings in the room during the afternoon. Arthur positioned it to highlight where I and my guests would sit. The quick 30-second trial ended well. Arthur indicated that the film cartridge could record for up to 6 hours. So I was prepared to go. After thanking me, Arthur left. I quickly played with the laptop before switching it to screensaver and relaxing in my chair. Soon after, there was a faint knock on the door. And Ethan Daniels entered cautiously. It was finally time to begin. "Ethan, please come in and have a seat." I greeted him pleasantly. "Do you have any concerns about recording our discussion?" I asked with a nice smile. He was awkward and unsure. "Zachary, what is going on?" "We will discuss about it soon." "Have you heard what Chloe told you?" "This meeting is private. You pledged not to discuss it with anyone at Apex." He nodded, appearing uneasy. "Sure, Zachary, you are in charge. And are you okay with being filmed?" "I guess so." "Why all the questions?" I hesitated, interrupting him before he could continue. "Please wait a moment, Ethan. Everything will be obvious soon." I leaned back in my seat and observed Ethan's apprehensive reaction with a bland expression. Following a little silence, I confronted him immediately. "Ethan, I am aware of your relationship with my wife." His composure wavered. He tried to mask his amazement. He couldn't look directly at me. His gaze kept moving away from my eyes. "Zachary, I am not sure what you mean." Ethan stuttered. "Ethan, don't play dumb. I have the proof." I confidently lied, tapping a large folder on the table. "Now I'd like to hear your side of the tale. Please, you are in peril. And if you don't tell me the truth, things will get worse. I've been in difficult business negotiations before. But I've never seen anyone look as miserable as Ethan did right then." I enjoyed seeing him struggle and waited for him to explain his actions. After a little pause, he inquired, "Can we please stop recording, Zachary?" "No, we cannot." "Tell me, Ethan, when did it start? And how? How did you think it was appropriate to conduct an affair with your boss's wife for so long without his knowledge?" Ethan avoided eye contact and murmured, "Zachary, it all began 4 years ago and lasted approximately 3 months. You presumably already know the specifics. Isabella made an attempt on me. That is what happened, plain and simple. MIA and I had been acquainted with you and her for a long time, and she was always flirtatious. Who wouldn't be with such a wonderful physique?" He paused abruptly, feeling slightly uneasy when he heard how that sounded. I waited patiently for him to continue speaking. He mentioned it once during the Christmas celebration in the old ballroom. She flirted heavily with me. She was obviously interested in me, but I couldn't believe it. 2 weeks later she called me when you were in Chicago and invited me to her home. When I arrived I noticed she was just wearing a flimsy nightgown, which left little to the imagination. I was shocked. I tried to go, but she stopped me, locked the door and stood in front of me, smiling. She then mentioned something startling. "Ethan, I've liked you for a while and now I'm going to be with you. Zachary, I feel bad about this. I sincerely apologize for what happened. At 38 I'd never kissed somebody as lovely as Isabella while knowing it wasn't proper. I allowed it to happen. I was so intrigued that even a bunch of individuals using flamethrowers couldn't keep me away. Isabella grasped my hand and led me into the bedroom where we spent 2 hours together. It was an incredible experience, unlike anything I'd ever had before. Following that, I did whatever she requested. I simply went along with whatever she asked." Ethan sat, despondent, his head in his hands, staring at the ground. How long did this endure and how did it end? It lasted till she chose to discontinue it. She announced her resignation one day and was not very nice about it. I believe it was because I did not want to do what she asked. "What did she want you to do?" I inquired. He looked at me. Finally prepared to meet my gaze, he shared his secret. She asked me to set up phony accounts in order to steal money from Apex. It was all about money, Zachary. There's nothing else. She thought you had a lot of money. She wanted more for herself. She asked me a lot of questions after we finished, while we were lying in bed. She wanted to understand how our accounting systems worked. If it was possible to create phony accounts, how risky would it be? I assumed she was teasing, but she kept asking about it. Eventually, I just told her that I would not go along with it. He sat upright in his chair. I will be honest with you, Zachary. I'm not going to hide anything from you anymore. I did not say no because I was loyal to someone or had a strong sense of right and wrong. I really wanted to stay with Isabella no matter what. But I realized what she was asking was very risky and I didn't want to go to jail, not even for her. Isabella saw that I couldn't do it and broke our relationship. That was fortunate because MIA suspected me of cheating. Fortunately, the purported affair ended before she could gather any evidence. I consistently denied it, lying about the issue, claiming that it was simply additional job projects keeping me busy. Although I feel MIA did not totally trust my explanations, she eventually ceased looking into the topic. I did my best to apologize and show her that I care, and I am grateful that we are still together. We remained quiet for a while. Ethan told me things I didn't know before. Barry's team uncovered evidence of the affair. For example, Ethan and Isabella exchanged numerous phone calls and emails on specific days. Ethan's disclosure that Isabella was the source of the trouble and her plan to steal money from the company was surprising. I stood up from my chair and informed Ethan that our talk for the day was done. I told him to go home and not return to the office or tell anyone about our conversation, whether they worked for the company or not. Do you understand? I asked in a calm tone. Yes, Zachary, he said humbly and afraid. Should I? Am I? Let's talk about it further on Monday, Ethan. For now, just return home to MIA and the children. Talking to Eddie Kreitzer at 130 produced a similar result. Eddie had risen through the ranks at Apex. He supervised global sales and marketing before being promoted to second in command under my supervision. Isabella had set her sights on him shortly after their breakup with Ethan, based on their phone and email exchanges, which had lasted more than 6 months while Eddie was unattached. Eddie said they didn't feel the need to be as discreet. Isabella joked about stealing from the firm slowly so as not to alarm him. What began as a light-hearted concept between them evolved into a serious request from Isabella. He tried several various approaches but couldn't discover one that was safe. I couldn't do it because the company is well managed. Our money are closely scrutinized, so I didn't see how I could get away with it. When I told Isabella the truth, everything changed. She was finished with me talking to Bernard Eisenhardt, Apex's treasurer, which didn't go as planned. When I mentioned Bernie, I thought of you and my wife. He appeared astonished but not angry. What exactly are you talking about, Zachary? I have photographs to prove it. Bernie, I replied, tapping the manila folder. There's no point pretending it's not true, he said. Photos. He sounded a little crazy. I'm not sure what you have, Zachary, but if the photographs are what I believe they are, you should speak with Isabella, not me. I walked away from there. I trusted him. Barry told me that Bernie was very irritated since they discovered no connection between him and Isabella, other than one phone conversation from her to him. I encouraged Bernie to explain the situation, and he grudgingly revealed that Isabella had invited him over for what she claimed was a surprise party. She wanted his opinion on what you enjoyed. I was perplexed by what was happening. When I arrived, she was dressed in a see-through nightgown that was very short. You have seen the photographs. She ushered me in, kissed me, and attempted to kiss me with her tongue. I'm sure it's in the pictures. I asked her what occurred following that. I informed her that I could not be involved with her because she was married to my boss. Then I unlocked the door and went back to my car. I sat there until my thrills subsided, and then I departed. I didn't think it was necessary to tell you about it, Zachary. Nothing occurred, and I was concerned you'd blame me rather than Isabella. So I remained quiet. And now you're accusing me? His voice grew louder with rage, but I interrupted him. Take it easy, Bernie. Let me clarify. I recently realized Isabella was cheating on me with 2 other co-workers. And I'm just trying to figure out what occurred. I trust you. I trust that nothing transpired between you two. His rage subsided and was replaced with shock in the eyes of others. Wow. He leaned back. I recall hearing some rumors about her and Ethan a few years back. I didn't believe it, however. I assumed it was something people would say just because she is attractive. After she flirted with me, I began to have misgivings. However, I thought it was not my place to become involved. We talked a little longer. I informed him that I believed in him, apologized for blaming him, and requested him to keep our conversation between ourselves. Then he vanished. While I was reflecting on my most recent discoveries, Chloe entered the meeting room. "Zachary, Tyler is waiting outside, looking quite worried. Even though you had planned his meeting for 4 o'clock. He's in a hurry and wants to speak with you straight away. He believes it is urgent and cannot wait any longer. He would have already entered the room if I hadn't posted guards outside. What shall I do with him?" I smiled and instructed her to wait 5 minutes before letting him in. I needed that time to digest what was going to happen. It's not every day that you learn your best buddy wants you to go. It is not every day that you get the opportunity to respond to someone. Tyler was nervous as he came into the conference room. He appeared quite lively, as if he had consumed a lot of caffeine. But he was attempting to remain calm. "Hello, Zachary. How are you?" He sounded calm, but his voice was higher than usual. "Hello, Dowdle. Thank you for coming. Do you want a coffee?" He said no. "Why are you carrying a video camera?" I smiled and stated that I only wanted to memorialize the meetings I had today. I inquired whether it was okay with him, and he hesitantly consented. I then inquired about the rationale for the concealment. "Chloe, do you want to talk?" Dylan only nodded weirdly when he noticed me. I showed him my laptop screen, which displayed a video freeze frame from my bedroom. Isabella was lying down naked with her legs wide. Jeff was also nude, his head resting between Isabella's legs, which pleased her. Isabella seems really delighted with her eyes closed. Denham looked at me with amazement on his face. I waited for him to speak, and when he said, "Zachary," I punched him hard beneath the eye with my right hand. He slumped backward, banging his head on the floor, and his chair slid away from the table. I removed the thick gloves I was wearing and stood over him. It was quite painful, but I didn't think I had broken a finger. I sat down for a moment, grimacing in pain and caressing my injured hand, waiting for Denham to awaken. After a few minutes, he opened his eyes and grumbled, caressing his face as he began to feel better. He searched for me before moving away to sit by the wall with a shy and cautious attitude. "Do you want more? You're a sneaky person. I can still hit you with the other hand." I spoke casually. "No, Zachary." He looked at the door, wondering if he could get away before I stopped him. "Do not worry, Dowdell. The guards are still outside. You're staying a little longer." We sat silently as he reflected on his unfortunate situation. He probably wished I didn't know anything, but he was about to get a harsh awakening. "Okay, Dowdell, get up and sit down at the table. Do not worry. I will not hit you again. What comes next will hurt even more." He spoke cautiously. He stood up and proceeded to a chair far away from me, keeping a careful eye on me. "I will not spend any more time with you. My oldest friend from school. You are a bad person." He remained mute as I continued speaking. "You've slept with my wife, stolen my money, and even tried to take my life," I said, surprising him with his rapid action. "Now you must face the penalties and meet new individuals in jail." I also made up a story about Isabella admitting everything was his idea. "You didn't simply cheat on me. You also intended to harm me further by murdering me. Is this what you were thinking?" "Thank you, Zachary. This is all a lie." He sounded desperate. I acknowledged that I had an affair with Isabella. There's no point denying it. But stealing the money and intending to damage you, that was entirely her idea. I kept trying to convince her not to do it. Then, when it didn't work, you decided to mess with my automobile, right? He looked down, avoiding eye contact. In a short time, everything. The affair started like the ones with Ethan and Eddie. Isabella persisted and Denham couldn't resist. He claims he resisted her several times before caving in. But that doesn't matter in the end. He never informed me about it, and after approximately 3 months of dating, he slept with her. She started talking about taking some of my money. Unlike those who had previously assisted her, Denham was willing to join her. He formed a new company and worked out how to properly record payments in accounts receivable. However, he redirected them to his new organization as the security leader. He made certain that no one asked too many probing questions about his scheme. In less than a year, he managed to steal almost $1.80 million. Barry's team had already discovered most of this information. Denim was now open, unconcerned about the camera, and acknowledged to feeling sorry for treating me horribly. Isabella believed that the amount of money you had was so large that $1 million or $2 million was insufficient for her, which she thought was unfair. I deactivated the account and made sure no traces remained. About a month later, she started talking about injuring you. She stated things like, "We could be together, Dowdle. You can manage the company or delegate responsibility while we enjoy the profits." She continued to talk about it without pausing. When we were dating, she constantly had a fresh plan for what would happen after you died, and she received your money. Did you believe her? He let out a large sigh. Zachary, I was foolish. The intimacy was incredible. It was the most exhilarating experience I've ever experienced. I misled myself into believing she cared about me. I thought I loved her, but now I am not so sure. She kept saying that if I didn't agree to something, perhaps we shouldn't be together. After a while, I felt as if I had no other choice. My acquaintance informed me Isabella is tenacious and will not give up quickly. She becomes fixated on a notion, like a dog on a bone. I found someone who could assist me with my needs. He claimed it would be simple to screw with your brakes without anyone knowing if it was done correctly. He gave me a wounded look. I do not think you will ever forgive me. I can't believe I followed through with it. I had a sense of being unique. I felt like Isabella was controlling me and telling me what to do. It was as if I were a miniature monster. I am following her commands. Were you planning on doing it again? I didn't have to ask. I had previously viewed the video that Asimov had given with me. He admitted to having difficulty speaking. She wanted to. I informed her that we needed to wait a few weeks to avoid drawing attention to the car. I attempted to avoid her, but she was tenacious and persistent. Denim seemed defeated. Accepting reality, I inquired about the stolen money. And he promptly provided me with details about the secret accounts where he kept it. Isabella had depleted the remaining funds, leaving only nearly $60,000 on hand. It was shortly after 4:30. I gave Denim to the guards, who would retain it until the cops arrived. I returned to the meeting room and waited for Isabella, who was scheduled to arrive at 5 o'clock. As fresh information came to light, the terrible reality grew more difficult to face. My wife was cheating on me and stealing my money. She even attempted to have me killed. It's difficult to fathom how somebody could do that. I lived with this woman for about 8 years, mostly happily. But without really knowing who she was. Isabella arrived late to the conference room, as usual, and appeared both glamorous and annoyed. What is happening, dear? Chloe requested I meet you here, but she would not explain why. Is there an issue at work? Why did you leave me without a car today? Isabella's annoyance was a veneer, as far as I could tell. She appeared worried underneath it. She and Denim have most likely spent a lot of time on the phone today, attempting to understand the situation. Please sit down. This is difficult for me to say. I sat calmly, attempting to manage my emotions, and observed her fight to settle. I wanted to enjoy every moment of this. Isabella appeared concerned as her knees shook during the calm period. I eventually spoke up. Isabella, I understand you were unfaithful. How could you have betrayed me? I thought you cared about me. She attempted to appear calm, but her eyes widened as she tightened up. I noticed her attempting to appear sorrowful and understanding. It happened quickly. She saw it coming. Sweetheart, I'm truly sorry. I never intended to hurt you. You and I spent a lot of time apart. She halted the tears that were flowing down her cheeks. She appeared serious, but I understood the real tale. She continued to cry and seek for my hand. Zachary, will you forgive me? I do not want to lose you, Isabella cried. I am not sure. Isabella, I honestly don't know. He responded after a little pause, adding, but you must tell me how it began. When did it end? And more importantly, why? Why did you do this? Please don't talk about it, Isabella pleaded. We can move on from this. I promise to make things right. I want to be the perfect wife for you, I informed Isabella sternly. But for us to proceed, you must tell me the truth. When did it all start? How long did it last? I had the upper hand in the conversation. enjoying my dominance over her. Isabella wasn't sure which of her hidden connections I was aware of. I had discussed her affair as if it had already ended, thinking she wouldn't suspect Denim explicitly. Now she had to try and figure it out. And if she guessed wrong, she'd be revealing a hidden affair I wasn't aware of. She hesitated but soon began explaining. I felt lonely and abandoned while you were gone, Zachary. I appreciate that it may not seem fair, given your efforts to achieve success in building our company. But I let my emotions take over, I suppose. And then, I had a few drinks, and when he attempted to make a move, I simply went along with it. I chuckled quietly. Isabella, you cannot get out of this. Can you tell me when this occurred? Isabella, I truly do need to know. She rose up, approached me, and sought to hug me while crying. Zachary, I sincerely apologize. I kept my distance, made eye contact, and inquired. When did it happen? I caught a fleeting look of thinking in her eyes before it vanished. She sat alongside me, sighing, and said, just over 4 years ago she thought Ethan Daniels would win. I silently laughed. Isabella, you made a good attempt. It's a shame you didn't realize there wasn't a correct choice. So what happened? She looked at me, slightly furious beneath her anguish, but knew she had few options. It persisted for several months. I don't know why, Zachary, but I lost control of my emotions. I understood it was a mistake and had to end things with Ethan. It was upsetting me, and I was continuously crying. And then, Ethan! I yelled, cutting her off. You also cheated on me with Ethan. The look on her face was memorable. She looked terrified and perplexed, stating, I don't understand it. And Andrew was not the only one. I yelled, you were with 2 of my employees. What were you even thinking? She attempted to interrupt me, but I continued. Isabella, how do we repair this? How can I trust you again? I bet everyone at work laughed at me. They presumably believed that the boss's wife flirts with everyone. Have you slept with anyone else? What about the janitor? No, I promise, it was just the 2 of us. How can I trust you? I asked. You may have been with everyone I know. Did you have a fling with Jordan prior to his departure? What about our pal Archie, Debbie's husband Samuel, or Dowdall? I need to know if you've met with all of them, he questioned. Isabella grasped the opportunity to explain. She appeared serious and gently took my hands. Zachary, I swear to God, it was only those 2. I did that a long time ago and felt really horrible about it. I have always been faithful to you and I will continue to be. I told her that the room was silent. I gazed at her, fatigued and sad, attempting to conceal my mixed feelings of wrath and satisfaction as she faced the consequences. Fine, Isabella, I said quietly. I know you were unfaithful to 2 of my employees, but you have put an end to it. You straightened things out and decided to be faithful to me again. Is this correct? Yes, sweetie. She responded with a gleam of optimism in her eyes. So there's one more thing I need to ask you, I explained, positioning the laptop in front of her. Could you please explain what is happening here? I pressed 2 keys. When the screensaver faded, the video began playing. We watched Jeff continue on, Isabella moaning in pleasure. She was really enjoying it, saying things like, yes, keep doing that. Isabella was very into it. She did not react strongly to the laptop. She did not shout or run away. She only said quietly and closed the laptop before turning to face me. Her countenance had entirely transformed in a matter of moments. Her face was suddenly filled with rage and frustration, her eyes keen and her mouth forming a sneer. All right, Zachary, you got me. Congratulations. What would you like me to admit? Yes, I was with Dowdall and he treated me better than you have. Is this the truth, Isabella? Is that the reason you wanted me dead? My question appeared to surprise her. She stood there, looking at me for a time, and all she could say was, what? I don't comprehend what you're saying, I responded. Are you certain? I asked quietly. I showed her the computer screen, which had a video of our kitchen. Isabella and Denim were wearing robes and conversing. I am not disturbed, Dowdall. It's acceptable if he didn't. Damage the vehicle. You can try again. Isabella, you understand how risky this is. If people find out what happened, it might cause problems. No way. The automobile was destroyed by fire, gone for good, along with the others. Nobody will suspect anything. We simply need a new plan to care for him. Can't you hurt him or pay someone to hurt him while making it look like a theft? I shut off the computer with a click and stared at Isabella. You cannot dispute your role in this film in court. Isabella's demeanor remained icy, as if she were a rat locked in a trap, anxiously looking for a way out. She expressed no remorse or warmth. She said in a low and scornful tone, "You won't tell the police, Zachary. It would damage your reputation and turn Apex into a laughingstock. The boss of a very affluent company and his wife are romantically involved with their staff. You appear silly all around the world." She leaned back, delighted yet contemptuous. I contacted Chloe and requested Nancy Leggett's attendance. When she walked in, she sat at the table opposite Isabella and me, staring at my wife with disapproval. Nancy, Isabella believes that reporting her for stealing and threatening me would be detrimental to me and my employment. Could you explain what you said to her earlier? I asked. Nancy smiled and responded, "Of course, Zachary. Isabella and Denim's shocking scheme will make headlines for a time. It involves money, dishonesty, and a murder attempt. A beautiful woman and a man betraying a buddy. It's a major event with plenty of delicious facts. It will be more renowned than the Paris Hilton or Anna Nicole Smith stories. Isabella will attract a lot of attention, making Apex quite popular. Zachary will be featured on several television shows, including Larry King and The Today Show. He is a trustworthy and loyal businessman who has been duped by a deceptive woman and her follower. When Isabella and Denim are arrested, Apex will have received coverage in Business Week and the Wall Street Journal. Following the trial, Zachary will be honored with the Entrepreneur of the Year award. The company is predicted to acquire $100 million in new business, while Zachary will receive approximately 10,000 letters from ladies interested in being with him. Some may even send photos. This is excellent news for Apex. Isabella, it may not be easy for your husband, but you will help a wealthy and successful guy become even more prosperous." I was astounded by how brilliant this notion was. Nancy gave me a sneaky look before getting up and walking away. Isabella slumped on her seat, looking troubled and depressed. It was the first time she appeared defeated in all the years I'd known her. I reached for the telephone. "Chloe, please contact the police immediately." The ensuing 14 months were full of turmoil. Whether they compensated for prior events is debatable. The police charged Isabella and Denim with various felonies, including attempted murder, fraud, and theft. Apex's lawyers swiftly launched a lawsuit to recover the stolen money that Denim admitted to taking, also filed for divorce as a result of the affair. Denim's, Isabella's, and my shared accounts were frozen as a result of the legal efforts to prevent any funds from being transferred after they were freed on bail. They were unable to hire costly counsel and had to rely on public defense instead. It was a significant adjustment for them. I kicked Isabella out of the house and easily obtained a restraining order against her. The footage of her chatting with Denim about attempting to hurt me again was quite convincing. Isabella stayed with her tennis friend Abigail for a bit. She did not contact me, and I was not waiting for it either. She knew there was nothing she could say to change the situation. After Isabella's issues, I fired Ethan and Edie the following Monday. They didn't appear startled by the news. Edie just told me he did a wonderful job at APAC. So if a future employer requested a reference, I readily agreed. Ethan asked me to help him find work, and in exchange, he promised to testify against Isabella in court. I found it hilarious and did not take him seriously. I informed him that I had a recording of his affair and partner's intention to steal from the corporation. If he refuses to testify, the prosecutors will force him to do so. I appointed Dylan as the new chief financial officer, certain that he will flourish in this position. I requested him to interview candidates for the treasurer and ED positions. Isabella and Denim got theirs after 7 months. It was enjoyable and lasted over 3 weeks. I went to court a few times but didn't feel compelled to attend every day. Unsurprisingly, they were unable to deny their acts. So each lawyer attempted to portray the other as the primary culprit. Isabella's best characteristics were her attractiveness and ability to act. or rather, lie on the witness stand. The male jurors were duped by her behavior. The difficulty was that there was video of her urging Dowdell to try to injure me again, which Isabella couldn't change. They were both found guilty on around 8 offenses, including the principal ones. Following the trial, Isabella received media attention, which led to invitations for interviews on magazines and television. This manner, she could afford to engage expensive attorneys. These new attorneys have requested a review of the case, delaying the ultimate decision on their punishment. Isabella and Dowdell could now face 10 to 15 years in prison. They returned the majority of the stolen money to Apex, keeping only $72,000 for themselves once Denim Security Company ceased shop. I was seeking for a fresh team to support Apex's needs. When I flew to Los Angeles to see and thank Barry Asimov, he suggested that I hire David Callis. Barry mentioned that David wanted to work in the Bay Area, and I knew he was talented based on his past work. I think you'll be glad you provided him a position, so he may start a business with you as his major client. I chose to hire Callis. Things are going fine. While at Asimov's office, he showed me another film I was unaware of. This is unrelated to the Isabella and Denim situation. Come see the video. Zachary, I believe you'll find it humorous. To my amazement, I found my lawyer, Christopher, in bed with Isabella, jumping up and down on her. He was about 60 years old, and Isabella didn't appear to be having fun, despite the fact that he was. After they had sex, which didn't last long, they talked in bed. Isabella had persuaded him a few months ago to assist her find a way around our prenuptial agreement. Charlie, the excellent lawyer who wrote the document, was having difficulty with it, but he still enjoyed spending time with Isabella when she was agreeable. I found it satisfying to keep Charlie accountable. I accused him of wrongdoing, loudly and publicly. As a result, he lost his ability to practice law. I sued him and confiscated $240,000 of his savings, which I donated to charity. It made me really delighted. Everything panned out exactly as Nancy Leggett predicted for me in Apex. We received a lot of coverage from television news and tabloid newspapers. I was all over the news, including CNN, Fortune, and the front page of the National Enquirer. Nancy needed to hire 3 new employees to help with the workload. We met practically every day to plan and decide which interviews and possibilities to pursue. Apex's business had a nearly 20% increase in the first 6 months following the announcement. Nancy was correct with the letters from ladies. There have been nearly 8,000 thus far, and they continue to arrive. When I read through the first few hundred, several of the photographs were improper. I gave the responsibility of responding to them to one of Nancy's interns. As far as I can tell, that guy has a lot of sex. Following my separation with Isabella, unmarried ladies in the region began to express interest in me. I had more romantic prospects than I could have dreamed, but I didn't feel compelled to pursue them. Isabella kept me content throughout our time together, so I didn't feel compelled to pursue other possibilities. I dated for ladies I liked and had romantic connections with 2 of them. I understood that the casual dating scene was not for me. After spending time with Nancy at work, I realized she was the one I wanted to be with. We've been together for about a year. We are not in a hurry to marry, but it is something we might consider in the future. Nancy sent me a unique gift for my birthday last Sunday. We had a good time at her house on Saturday night, watching an old movie and being intimate. Being intimate with Nancy is wonderful. Isabella prefers harsh and powerful, but this is delicate and sweet. Nancy's concern extends beyond how things feel. It's about the intimate bond we have, and it's wonderful. One Sunday morning, she graciously allowed me to relax, while she prepared and took breakfast for both of us to our room. When I awoke, I noticed her standing by the bed in her robe, carrying a tray of breakfast. We had a good supper together. Then she asked, "Are you ready for your gift?" "I wear it underneath the robe I mentioned." I questioned her, and she grinned back. "Are you ready?" With that, she removed her robe and posed in front of me. She was wearing a white t-shirt that reached just below her hips, revealing her lengthy legs. The shirt featured a picture of Isabella appearing upset. probably from a snapshot Nancy discovered in my house. The shirt underneath the photo read, "I survived the beast." I chuckled and beckoned Nancy over. I pulled her into bed with me, and after a while, we removed the shirt. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, write a comment below with your thoughts on what transpired. Take care.